Today, our journey takes us to the Windy City, Chi-Town, the home of the Bears, Soldier Field, and Hallis Hall, to visit with one of my former players, another Louisiana legend. His story is one of vision, dreams, perseverance, and faith, spanning a 19-year playing career in 3 leagues and 3 countries, 2 championships, 2 positions. We take a look inside the heart and mind of a true champion. My name is Ken Karcher, and I'll be your host. And alongside me is my son, Austin Karcher. Today, we'd like to welcome Kerry Joseph as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Kerry.
Hey, good morning. How you guys are doing? Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a while since I've seen you guys.
Well, it's great to see you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you share your story with our listeners, and it's going to be a fun time together. So let's get right into it. And give me one word, Kerry, that would describe the Joseph home growing up.
Competitive.
Good. Tell us about your family, your mom and dad, and maybe how they influenced you or inspired you in your early years, and your relationship with your brothers.
So I'm the middle of 3 boys. My mom and my dad, great parents. My mom was an educator, still is. At her young age of wisdom, she still actually lends a hand into the education field as far as a substitute teacher. My dad, he worked for the state growing up, worked for the state's unemployment office in New Iberia, Louisiana. Just grew up as a bunch of country kids, and just a very competitive sports family, church-oriented family. My dad, after he retired from the state, he opened up a little convenience store, wanted to do something different. It's been 24 years now that he's been gone. He's left to go with the Lord, and but just grew up in a home, Ken, that sports were everything. Education was first. And then anything that dealt with a ball, we was going to try to find it as kids. But our parents were really supportive to make sure that we chased every dream that we had. The only rule that they had that was it was 2. Number 1, we was going to work hard for whatever we wanted, and number 2 was once you start something, you got to finish it, and you got to see it through. So what that taught us was perseverance. Taught us about resiliency, and it was just it was a great time as a kid. Like I said, my oldest brother is 3 years older than I. My youngest brother is 7 years younger than me, so I was right smack in the middle. But we was very competitive. Everything that we did, we wanted to compete. I wanted to be better than my biggest brother and his friends. My youngest brother wanted to be better than me and my friends. So it was just fun. It was fun times, but it was loving times because we always had each other's back, and our parents made sure of that and made sure we did things the right way, treated people the right way, and number 1, got our education.
Yeah.
Well, I know this, Kerry. Since I've known you, you've been a class act. So we take our hats off to your parents and the role your brothers played, because you've represented them well. I know they'd be very proud of you in every aspect that I've ever known of you. What role did faith play in your home, Kerry, at a young age?
You know what? It played a big role. Growing up in the South, in the country, we had to, at that time, Southern Baptist kid, we was in church at 6:30 in the morning. So as a kid, it's like, well, I got to go to church that early. But our parents were planting a seed inside of us that they knew that we were going to need as life came at us. And I think our faith just played a big part in my upbringing, just believing in God, believing in God's plan. And it really hit home to me when I was going into high school, and I had a cousin of mine that, set me to the side one day and realized the talent that I had and told me, he said, man, you know where you got your talent and your gifts from? And I said, yeah, my mom and my dad, they made me. And he said, no, God gave it to you. He said, and if you don't use it and you don't use it the right way, you'll lose it. And he said, but you got to continue to have faith. When things don't look right, have faith and believe. And that was just a turning point for me going into my high school years to realize that, regardless of what hits you, you got to just believe and have faith that God has a plan for you.
Awesome. So, Coach, tell us a little bit, maybe about a memorable conversation or the most memorable conversation you had with your dad growing up.
Had a bunch of those. Uh, I think the biggest one for me was I remember my dad was, growing. Like I said, I was born in '73, so 70s, '80s. Uh, you know, high school. I was late '80s when I graduated. Going into high school. One conversation my dad told me, he said, every morning when you wake up and you go into that restroom to brush your teeth, look at the man in the mirror. Make
Mm,
sure you are happy with that man in the mirror. Make sure you look at that man in the mirror, because when you go out into the world won't see you the same way you see yourself.
Mm.
wow.
I didn't understand that at first, but the world that we grew up in, when you talk about prejudice, you talk about
Mhm.
racism, people didn't see you the same way. As an African American man growing up back in the day, I didn't understand what he was saying, but at the same time, he was telling me to love myself and to enjoy myself, and
Mm,
I'll never forget that conversation.
wow, that's so wise. Um, so, tell us a little bit about maybe who inspired or influenced your love for sports, Coach.
You know what? I have to go back and it's first, like I said, it starts with my mom and my dad. They pushed
Yeah.
us to the to the to the brink, of making sure that they was going to exhaust everything that we had within us and supported us. But when you talk about coaches, I think about the first coach that I had in New Iberia, a man by the name of Danny Fauché.
Okay.
Uh, he owns Holiday Sporting Goods. Now it's a different name now, but I grew up real close with that family, and he was the first coach that I had playing flag football, and just inspired me to find the love for the game, to play the quarterback position, to be able to punt, to do those types of things. But they were like an extended family to me, and I'm grateful for my mom and my dad allowing me to spend so much time with them, because as a young man, I didn't see color. I saw people,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
that taught me a
Amen.
lot. It taught me a lot at the age of 9 years old, 10. Because me and their children are best of friends and still close to that family. So that was a really big inspiration to me at a young age. And then, when I think about high school, I think about a guy by the name of his real name is Merlin Wallett, but they used to call him Bootsy Wallett. Played in the NFL, but he inspired me to continue my work ethic,
Mm,
to how to train, how to be at my very best. That was the inspiration. And then it goes on and on as I, went through the collegiate level coaches that I've had. I have one right here on this call by the name of Ken Culture. Just having great people around me to inspire me. And people don't realize, like, Coach Carter, like your dad, Austin,
yeah.
the year I played with him, I started off as a quarterback, and probably 10 days into training camp, I switched to safety. But he never treated me any differently. And I'm so grateful for him and Gillen Hall and the opportunity they gave to me to be a part of that championship team, but also to play a different position.
Awesome.
Easy to coach guys like you, Kerry. We'll get to that later. It's easy. And
What
you're there.
What were maybe growing up some of your dreams and maybe a hero that you had? It could be, maybe a quarterback growing up that you really looked up to, or any hero.
I tell you what, I used to. It's funny. I'm coaching at the Chicago Bears now, but I just remember watching Walter Payton.
Mm,
I
Mm.
remember actually those Monday night football games, getting my butt whipped for staying up too late to watch the game. Uh, and just watching that franchise, that organization. But when you talk about the quarterback position, you're talking about guys like Randall Cunningham,
yeah.
guys that can throw the football and run around, guys that I just idolize and say, man, one day I just wish I can be like that and play in the NFL. You talk about Joe Montana, just different guys, man. Quarterbacks around the NFL, watching Monday Night Football, listening to Howard Cosell, that was just always a dream of mine. Uh,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my brother stayed a Bears fan. I didn't as I got older. I became an Eagles fan, but
Okay. Was
those
it
were
because of Randall?
because of Randall.
Okay.
I just felt I can fly. I felt I can throw the ball as far as he could. I can run around and make plays, and I just held on to those dreams and those visions uh, as a young kid growing up. And but I knew I'm grateful I had other people that came into my life to teach me how to work for those dreams and visions that I've had as a
Mm.
young kid. And that was my biggest thing. I've always wanted to play in the NFL. Didn't know, if it would happen, but it was just a goal of mine. It was a dream of mine. And I just said, if I work hard enough and believe and pray about it, that the opportunity might present itself.
Awesome.
When I look at your high school career, and I think today, and I'm sure you would agree with this and maybe want to comment on it, there aren't many four-sport athletes anymore. There's hardly more than two-sport. Everyone's so into specialization. Talk to us a little bit about your four-sport career and maybe what you loved about each one or why you felt like it helped you.
You know what? It's crazy that I did four sports in high school, and I don't know if it was the best thing because I didn't really concentrate on certain things, but I had the opportunity to help my school, to help every team. Growing up, I loved baseball. I loved pitching. Loved playing the infield. Of course, football. Basketball I wasn't the best at basketball, but just to be able to be out there, the change of direction, to be able to go down inside and body up people and beat up on people. I just love the competition part. I think that's what drove me was the opportunity to compete. And then picking up the javelin and the discus in track and field, uh, I knew I had this own talent to throw the javelin. But going my junior year in high school, I picked up the discus and I just threw it one day, just joking around. And my track coach, he said, "Do that again." And I threw it again. And he said, "You're throwing a discus now." I said, "Coach, I can't." He said, "I'm going to teach you how to spin." And he said, "You're going to throw the discus." Well, lo and behold, sometimes coaches see things in you that you don't see in yourself. I turned around and went state my senior year throwing the
Oh,
discus.
wow.
Uh,
How far did
and
you throw it?
I actually threw it 175. I threw
Oh,
the
wow.
javelin. So I won state in javelin at 207. And then I won the discus at 175 my senior year. So all those things helped me competitively. And I think about my senior year, the head coach that I had that came in, Bill Simon, who I'm still good friends with. Before my senior year, I threw the ball 75 times in high school. And he
Wow.
came in my senior year and said, "We're going to change that, and we're going to throw the football around the field." And I praise God for him because that helped me with the scholarship, going to the next level. Uh, but it was just one of those things. Like if that was a ball, if that was a sport, Kerry Joseph wanted to play it and wanted to be a part of it.
I'm sure your high school was happy you wanted to be.
They were, yeah, they were. We did pretty well.
So, Coach, tell us a little bit maybe what your favorite high school sports memory was.
Uh, I didn't win a state title. I would have to say, my state championship in the javelin and the discus.
Okay.
Winning state was just awesome. You
Yeah.
all the hard work and being able to go out and practice the javelin and discus doing PE, so you can go to baseball practice in the afternoon. All that balancing that time and trying to figure things out worked. Uh, but I also think too one of the greatest moments with my football team, my senior year, winning the district championship, going undefeated. Unfortunately, we lost in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, but just that run that we had that year with those guys was just awesome. And I can reflect back really my whole senior year, going into basketball, losing in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Having a great basketball team, losing in the semifinals to St. Augustine High School out of New Orleans. Just having that great run and to be able to share it with the team, the friends and my teammates. That 1990, 1991 year for me was just awesome.
Yeah. I kind of have a question because it's kind of a side note, but I coach javelin here in Alabama. Did it ever hurt your arm throwing javelin and baseball during the same season?
It never hurt my arm during the same season. I think the baseball deal, I started having some elbow issues
Okay.
with the baseball, and I had to kind of let that go. But I think a lot of that probably came from my younger age, from my youth.
Yeah.
When I was playing baseball, I threw a lot of curveballs, and lo and behold, nobody ever stopped me to say, "Hey, you don't need to be throwing those types of curveballs right now." And I think that started to weigh on me a little bit. The javelin really didn't bother me that much. It's weird that I was able to throw the javelin and it didn't bother me, but the baseball it would.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about this throughout the whole podcast, Kerry, and it's obviously one of the core of our ministry, which is talking about identity. At your young age, coming out of high school, you're basically a superstar in high school. Everyone knows you, probably all in the newspaper, all this good stuff. How did your faith help shape your identity at this early age?
I never was a person that you never heard me when people ask, "Who are you?" I never use football. I'm
Mm.
uh, I'm a McNeese football quarterback. I'm the starting quarterback for McNeese State University. I never used that. I always felt that I was Kerry Joseph. I was
Mm.
who God created me to be. And I was taught that at a young age by my parents to say that whatever you do in life is just what you do. It's not who you are. Who you are is that name on the back of your jersey, the name that
Wow.
you carry every day. And it's another one of the things my dad, as we talking through it, that name on the back of your jersey, the name that you wear, don't mess it up.
Mm.
Represent it, but don't mess it up. Because he did. As my father, he bragged about everybody. He bragged about all of his boys and the things that we were able to accomplish. But like he said, that's not who you are. My mom and my dad preached that is what you do. And I think that helped me to tie that into my faith to know that God gave me a gift, and how can I turn that gift into a skill by the way that I work? I wasn't the best growing up. I wasn't the most talented growing up. But once I found that niche to work at it and the work ethic, you wasn't gonna outwork me. And that was the
Mm.
biggest thing that I was able to turn my faith into. If I work harder than everybody else, I'm gonna have a chance to be successful.
Mm.
Well said. Well said.
So, so obviously you go through high school and then you start to get recruited. Do you have any recruiting stories? And then tell us where you ended up and what was special about that place.
Like I said, I didn't have a lot of scholarship offers. My senior year in high school was the year that really did it for me, and going over to some camps during the summertime, going into my senior year, helped to drive some offers. But I had a lot of the schools in Louisiana, like Northwestern State. It was USL at the time, but it's UL Lafayette right now, McNeese State, Southern University. And I can tell you, I remember UL Lafayette. Well, it was USL at the time, but I remember them offering me a scholarship, and it was Coach Nelson Stokely. His son Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Stokely played in the NFL for a long time, and they wanted me to come to UL to be a kicker, to punt, and to be an athlete. And I said, say it again. And they said, well, we want you to come and punt and be an athlete. I said, I'm not going to school to punt because I punted in high school. And I'm like, I'm not punting. So I still laugh at that. And I wish I could remember the coach's name. It was a coach at that school that remembered that conversation. I ran into him a couple years ago, and he said, I still told them that they were crazy for offering you to come to school to be a punter. So that was out. Then let's go to Southern University. Southern University, I look up in the stands, they were at basketball games left and right. Well, as a kid growing up, I always had asthma. So I had the conversation with the coach at Southern. The dorms that they lived in didn't have air conditioning. So
Oh,
I was like, Coach, I'm a kid with asthma. I'm not coming to a school where I don't have air conditioning. So just those moments, man, kind of pushed me toward McNeese State. I went there, went on a visit. Coach Bobby Kiesler was the head coach at the time. He's from New Iberia, Louisiana, knew my family. Uh, Had a great visit there, felt real good about it, but I still wasn't sure I wanted to do that. And I had one more trip coming up to Northwestern State, kind of Natchitoches, Louisiana. And I walked out to visit. And coach, you know, I walked out when the scholarship was offered to me, and I didn't commit to it. And I walked out. My dad said, "What you gonna do?" He said, I want to go up the road." And he said, did you commit? And I said, no. My dad said, you're gonna turn around and you're gonna go right back in that room and you're gonna commit and you're gonna come here. He said, because you have somebody that we know that's gonna take care of you to make sure you do the right thing. And best decision I could have made by turning around. When the next recruit came out of the room, I went into the room and told Coach Keith I'm in. And the rest was history. And best decision I could have made when it came to college.
Well, some of the accomplishments we have written down here: you were a 4-year starter at QB, 42-11, two-time Southland Conference or 2 Southland Conference titles. You're Louisiana Player of the Year and honored Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 2024. So it sounds like you made a good decision, and obviously as a football player, you had a good career there.
I made a great decision, and you see the results of it. I had some great people on the team around me, some great teammates, great professors around the school. And it's like I felt that I had a camera on me everywhere I went. And one of the conversations I had with Coach Bobby Kiesler during my redshirt year, of course, and you see it now, I was frustrated because I felt I was better than the guy that I was playing. I deserved to be playing. And I remember Coach Keitha told me that he said, you're going to sit here, you're going to wait your time, and you're going to learn how to be patient. He said, because sometimes you're going to have to be patient in life. And he wouldn't let me leave. And I'm thankful he didn't, because coming into the 4th game of my redshirt freshman year, I took over as a starter and never looked back. And I look at college football now, how guys can just jump up and leave, and nobody is taught about being patient in the time of adversity or when things don't go your way. So I'm very grateful for the coaches that I had, and like you said, the people that I had in my corner, that God placed in my corner to make sure that his plan will come to pass.
Wow, that's a lot of wisdom.
Kerry, you mentioned your high school favorite memory. What would be a high and a low in your college career?
High in my college career is goes to that senior year, being number 1 in the country, and it was 1AA football. Going 13-0, first time winning a conference undefeated, and it was just a big opportunity for us as a university. Games were sold out. People were sitting on the hills in our stadium. It was just an awesome year. But the low of it was we didn't finish the deal. We lost to Marshall in the semifinals. I think it was 25-16, maybe, or 19. We lost that game at home, and that was probably a downtime for me, because I knew my college career was over, and the run at that national championship was out the door, and that one stung for a little while. I actually still have that picture of myself on the bench with my head in my hands, my dad sitting next to me, consoling me, and I was just in tears because I knew that was the only opportunity that I was going to have for that national championship. So that was a big low moment for me. And then not only that, too, I kind of kick myself right now because that same day I had an opportunity. I graduated that day, but I chose not to walk across the stage because of the early start of the game. But I wish I would have. If I could do it all over again, I would have walked across that stage first and then came over to the stadium.
So, Coach, how would you describe your spiritual journey at this point in your life? In college, and then transitioning to the next phase of your life.
Now for me, it's all about leadership. It's all about inspiring others. It's all about encouraging others. I think growing up in college, I was more on the silent side, leading by example. As a kid growing up in your late teens, early 20s, you didn't do everything the right way. I had the foundation within me, but of course, you live in life as a college student. Now, for me, is about encouraging and impacting, inspiring the next generation, the communities that I'm placed in, because we're faced with so many different things in the world today. I feel now that my responsibility as God's soldier is to stand on the battlefield daily, but not
Mm,
just to lead by example, but be vocal, to not be a silent leader, but really stand on the hill and let my light shine. Let people
mm.
see the goodness of God in my life, and I just see it every day what He's doing now, just in my coaching journey, uh, the opportunities that I've had thus far, the positions that I've been placed in. Man, it's nobody but God and what He's doing right now.
Awesome.
So you finish your college career and you're getting ready for the NFL draft. Give us your draft experience.
No, I remember sitting down a couple weeks before the draft. I had John Gruden and Coach Ray Rose, that was with the Eagles, came into McNeese, did a private workout with me, talked to me, and I felt that, man, I might have a chance here to get drafted. They say, we have a pick in the third round. We're gonna take a quarterback there. And then I remember on draft day that Bobby Horn was coming out of Ohio State, and he was the owner's pick. And I remember getting the call, and once the draft started, and I remember John Gruden calling me and saying that the owners wanted to go with Bobby Horn, but we would love to have you as a free agent. Now this is still early on in the draft, and I said, Coach, I just said I see what goes on at the end of the draft, and we can talk then. But I knew in my mind, once I saw that they took Bobby Horn, I wasn't going to the Eagles because you already had three
Mm.
quarterbacks. And so basically for me, it's practice roster or nothing. So I said I was going to try to find another opportunity. Well, I didn't get drafted. The Cincinnati Bengals had Jeff Blake, Eric Wilhelm at the quarterback position. Kenny Anderson was the head quarterback coach. Don Shula was no, Dave Shula. Dave Shula was the head coach of the Bengals in '96, and I had the opportunity to join that organization. So once I didn't get drafted, I immediately committed to signing a free agent contract with the Cincinnati Bengals as a quarterback, and actually played my first year there, my rookie year as a third quarterback on the roster, on the active roster. So that I just remember sitting at home throughout the draft, didn't know what was going to happen, felt that I've done everything that I could to put myself in position, but unfortunately for me, it just wasn't meant for me to be drafted.
Well, you look at your career, and I still shake my head when I'm getting ready to say this number. 19-year professional career is unheard of. I think of George Blanda, and maybe you are the only two I can think of that have played that long. But, to me, I look at it two things. It's broken up with the NFL and NFL Europe, about a 7-year period. You go to the Bengals, then you go over to London and play in the NFL Europe League with London. Then you get a shot with the Redskins. They try, I think, to put you in another position. And then lo and behold, you're sent over to the Rhine Fire, which is obviously dear to our heart. And you were asked to move to DB, as you mentioned earlier. And my question is, I have my perspective, but how did you handle that news internally, Kerry?
You know what? It wasn't easy, but I knew my love for the game was going to override my emotional feelings. Uh, being a quarterback, excuse me, being a quarterback, going to Washington as a running back, being there for training camp and getting cut on the last cut, those things just kind of drove me. But God had a plan. As a young man, I didn't see it. I get cut from Washington, I go to the Saints, and I work out in one day in the month of September. And then people that's from the South, you know how hot it can be.
Yeah.
I worked out for three spots, and I worked out and as a running back, as a quarterback, and a safety all in one day. And I remember the player personnel director told me, he said, "You want to make it into the NFL and stay, switch to safety." And I had the opportunity to join Ryan Fire the next spring of '98, and I went in as a quarterback with the opportunity to switch to safety. It it didn't hit me the right way at first because I felt I always wanted to be a quarterback. I was born to be a quarterback, but I looked at it and said, you know what? God gave me a gift to be able to switch positions. If I
Yeah.
don't, if I don't take this with an open mind and an open heart, my career is probably done. So I said, you know what? I remember Chris Shelling was on defense, and I remember Chris Shelling. We called him Shocker. I went over there with him, and I remember, Coach, you're gonna have to help me. He was in Toronto with me too. Our defensive coordinator,
Pete Kaharchuk.
Pete Kaharcher. I remember Pete being pissed off, saying that he doesn't want a quarterback over here playing on his defense. And that's the last thing I should have heard, because once I heard that, I had a point to prove. And I remember Chris Shelling telling me, he said, man, we're going to hit the first thing that move. And I said, I'm down with that. And I just, from there, I flipped my mind to say, let's take advantage of this opportunity. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I was going to give it my best shot. And for me, as I started realizing, and as 1 week went by, and I started realizing how easy it was for me, because I knew what the offense was trying to do. I saw the
Yeah.
picture differently. And that just kind of like, okay, this might not be that bad. So I just took it and ran with it, and it worked in my favor. We won the championship that year, went to Seattle, did 4 years on the defensive side playing safety. But now I look back at it and I say, you know what? God had a plan, and his plan was bigger than mine, because all he was doing was setting me up for where I am today in my coaching profession. And even when I went back to playing quarterback, when I went to Canada for 12 more years, and I started cheating because I just came from the defensive side. So all that was in preparation. I didn't handle it well at first, but then I realized that, man, I have an opportunity that God gave me. And I look at the retirements that I was able to accumulate in playing the game of football, the years I was able to play. If you'd have told me that in high school, like, man, you're gonna play 19 years professional, whatever. I just want a chance. So I just look back at it now, and I use that to help so many young men that might have that opportunity, to play quarterback, but we don't want you as a quarterback. We want to play you a receiver. At the end of the day, I tell them, do you want to play football?
Yes.
So my story now can be somebody else's story, or help somebody on their journey, because I didn't fight the switch. I embraced it. And I think
Yeah.
that's sometimes what we have to do in life, is about not fighting the circumstance sometimes. It's figuring out a solution and embracing that circumstance, and seeing what the best, what's the best thing that can come out of that. And I just took advantage of that.
Well, your maturity and your, obviously really talented to be able to do that in the first place. Not many people could switch positions at that level, but, your maturity and your humility and, just your faith, I think, is a testament to back to growing up and looking in the mirror, like your dad said, and just, saying, I'm not a quarterback. I'm God's given me gifts, and choosing to use those gifts with a good heart. I mean, I think that that honors him in the kingdom. So, you kind of answered the next question about how did NFL Europe, grow you. But, when you were talking about Chris Shelling, it made me smile because, I'm 9 years old. We're getting to go play a championship game, and all I can remember about him is he had his face painted for that World Bowl championship, and it sticks with me to this day. So that definitely brought a smile back to me. But do you have any great, any specific memories from Europe that you really enjoyed?
I think just that time in Germany, in Dusseldorf, Germany, was just awesome. I mean, just the camaraderie we had as a team, the guys, the coaches. It was just awesome. I mean, like, let's go all the way back to training camp, in Atlanta. And I remember
Yep.
Coach Hall's telling us, I'm not putting you guys on curfew. It's Atlanta. You can go do whatever you want to do, but you're gonna cut yourself. I won't have to cut you. Just things like that you hold on to. It's like, dang, that does make sense. You go out here in these streets, he won't have to cut you. You're gonna cut yourself. And then we take the flight over to Germany. Just the brotherhood. When you have championship teams, it's just the brotherhood that you have from coaches to players. I mean, it's just awesome. I'm not gonna say a name, but like we even had a coach that would come into our room and play cards with us. And I'm not gonna say his name, but he was a coach that we respected, and when it was time to go to practice, it was time to practice. But when it's time for a little downtime, he was one of us. And
Yeah.
you appreciate those stories and those moments. And I mean, that championship run was just awesome. I still talk to Coach might remember Joe Gordon. He's
Yep.
actually he's a head football coach in the Dallas area now, athletic director. So there's some guys on that team that I still connect with. Still talk to Chris.
Yep.
So it's just lifelong memories that was pretty awesome.
I also wanted to kind of ask this because, a lot of people in America maybe don't understand, but what was like the environment for as a player back then, as far as the fans in Europe for those games?
Crazy. I mean, when you think about games in Germany, it's when we pulled up at the game, it was already a party going on. And I remember
Yes,
we used to go on the game on these double decker buses.
I remember that.
And it just riding to the game. I used to listen to Mystical before the game, and you just look at the bus going through the crowds of people just full of beer. Probably can't
Yes,
understand anything that they're saying, but to them it was a sporting event. So you go into 40,000 people just screaming at the top of their lungs. It was just a great environment. 2 years ago I had the chance to play again in Munich with the
okay.
Seahawks. So just to be back in that environment, be back in Germany to see the fans, it brought back a lot of memories of those game days back in 1998.
Absolutely.
You know, when I see your face smile and my son, I know he and I talk about our times. Every time Europe and the Rhine Fire's brought up with anyone that was a part of it, it's instantly a big old smile to our faces.
Yep.
That
Oh
was
man,
it was awesome.
it
It's
was
an awesome
awesome.
time.
It was awesome. I'm trying to think. Was it last year in Seattle? I They did a presentation of. Oh, I know what it was. When it came out about me being inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, they did a little highlight video of me, and one of the clips, Coach probably remembers, when I hit the tight end in the World Bowl.
Oh yeah,
I hit the
yeah.
tight end on a shallow cross, and that was one of the clips that they showed in the room, and the room just went crazy. And it's like, man, that was '98. Half of the guys probably wasn't even born at the time. And just like Coach said, just those moments brings a smile. And unfortunately, I don't have my World Bowl ring. I made a
Oh
mistake.
no, what happened?
I lost it. That's the last time I take my ring off in public to put lotion on my hand in the airport, and left it
Oh,
right there and lost it.
You
And
have it. You have it in your heart.
have it in
But
heart though.
well, we're going to have to move on because I think the three of us could sit here and talk about Europe for a
I
long
know.
time.
I know.
But those are great memories. So anyway, you go to Seattle. You have 4 great years there, and now all of a sudden it's NFL, CFL, and I'm not sure, Kerry, if there was a decision you had to make. Could have you stayed in the NFL? But walk us through. You now go back to the CFL. You play for another 12 years. You have an 8-year layover at QB, which is quite a feat in itself. But I'm just going to rattle this off and then let you talk about it. And Austin will bring up some things here too. But you go to Ottawa. I think you're a 1,000-yard rusher, only the third QB in the history of the CFL to do that. You go to Saskatchewan, win the Grey Cup. You're All-Star and Player of the Year that year. Then you get traded to Toronto for 2 quick years. You're over to Edmonton. You retire in your mind, I guess, and then get called back to Saskatchewan and are honored there once again. Walk us through that CFL, and Austin, you might want to chime in and ask something there too, I guess.
Well, I try to make it pretty quick. I was going through a divorce after I got released from Seattle, and basically football in the NFL was over with. Didn't play in 2002. Started coaching a little high school ball, but then I got a call to GM that was in Ottawa, Eric Tillman at the time. He used to be a guy that ran the Senior Bowl, and when I was in college, he was trying to get me to come straight to Canada, but I wanted to chase my NFL dream. So when I got to Ottawa, it had been 8 years since I played quarterback, and the conversation was, hey, take your time. We know it's going to take a little adjustment for you to get back under center. And I remember my comment to him was, I don't have time. I need it now. So I got into camp. It was 6 quarterbacks that they brought into like the off season, and I was number 6 on the roster. And by week 4, I was the starter. And I look back on my life, and you're talking about destined for things. When you look back at my college career, my redshirt freshman year, week 4, I took over as a starter. Got to Canada, week 4, I took over as a starter. And I just kind of
Wow.
look back like, man, God, you had a plan all the time.
He's a
And
storyteller, that's for sure.
yes, he is. So, and I just took that and I ran with it. 2005 had opportunity, third quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards and rush for 1,000 in the same season.
Wow.
So just another great accomplishment, to be a part of that history. And then, Ottawa folded, go on to Saskatchewan, and had the opportunity there. And '06, made it to the Western Finals. '07, had to take a pay cut. Same general manager that brought me into the NFL became my general manager and made me take a pay cut, or I was going to have to get cut. So I struck a deal, and I shook his hand, and I said, I do it, but I just want a 1-year deal and a 1-year option. And if I play well and I lead this team, I just want my money back. That's all I ask. Made a deal. My dad always taught me, make sure you shake a man's hand and look him in the eye. And I did that, was the league MVP, led the team to the Grey Cup, and got traded. So
Oh,
that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so it was, but for me, it was another hurdle that I had to get over, right? I had to, yes, I was mad, I was upset, but I knew I had to still play football. So I was able to continue that journey for a few more years, Toronto, Edmonton. And then I said, at the time, my wife now was my best friend, and just hanging out with her, I knew that I wanted to try to have kids. I knew her. I knew the type of person. She was a God-fearing person. And I was at the back end of my career. So I proposed to her uh, on my honeymoon. I figured I was done after 13 seasons. And, I take it back. We got married. I played a couple more seasons. And then after the 13th season, I said, okay, I'm done. I just felt that it was time to move on. I was on my honeymoon, and no, I'm going back. I'm losing my track. I was on my honeymoon when I got the call to go to Edmonton because a good friend of mine, Kevin Reed, was the head coach at the time. So I ended up going back to Edmonton and playing for a few more years. I retired and said I was done, and I was out for a birthday dinner, and my phone rang in 14. And I told my wife, I said, I don't think I'm going back. I said, it's going to have to be a good deal. Well, 6 weeks left in the season, Saskatchewan calls and said, hey, we need some help. We banged up at the quarterback. Can you help us out? Struck a deal, went back up there, played 5, 6 weeks, lost in the first round of the playoffs, threw 5 interceptions that same day. I think it was probably about 5 degrees at kickoff. I was freezing, and I told him I was done. And they said, I knew, not Kerry Joseph, not 5 interceptions. You're not going to end your career like that. I said, watch. I said, I'm done. And the next day, Eli Manning threw 5. I told my wife, I said, he made more money than me, so I'm okay. I'm okay with ending my career with 5 interceptions. And that was it for me. That was it. Times have changed. I was 41 years old. The locker room was different. I couldn't connect with the players. But most importantly for me, I said that when I could not train in the off season the way I wanted to train and make that commitment, I knew my time was over.
yeah, yeah. So looking back, what was your strength as a player? Would you say, at any level, I guess?
Just my work ethic. I was going to always make sure that I was going to be in tip-top shape.
Yeah,
Regardless, I played the quarterback position. I knew that I had the gift to be able to use my legs. So I knew
yeah,
that I had to be in good shape because I was going to be running around at times. And I didn't want to be a guy, a quarterback that couldn't breathe, couldn't call a play in the huddle. And I just felt that I had to be better than everybody else. I had to be that leader. I had to be able to connect with my teammates, offensively and defensively. It didn't matter. Yeah, I might not hang out with you and do the things that you do away from the building, but I'm going to make sure that I connect with you. And I think just that ability as a leader helped me to go into any locker room and into any locker room and be a part of a great organization.
Do you have any secrets of staying, like, it's one thing to stay in shape at 41, but to be able to play at the highest level at 41, is there any secrets to that?
Man, prayer, prayer, you know what? Ask God to keep you healthy. But
Yeah.
most importantly, just making sure that you stay mentally and physically. Like as I got older, I never let myself get out of shape.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I can take a month or two off and then kind of get back into it. But as I got older, that might have went like a week or two. Then I had to kind of start to get back into it, take another week or two off on vacation, but get right back into it. So I never let myself really get out of shape because I think when you get older and you start to do that, you set yourself up for injury because you're pushing yourself a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
Austin, why don't we jump to the coaching career?
All right. So, Coach, how did you play your playing career prepare you as a coach? Obviously, playing both sides, you kind of referenced that played a role in preparing you for that. But is there anything specific throughout your playing career that helped you grow or prepare you for the coaching role that you now play?
Yes, so when I got the call in 2011 to go back to Canada, to go to Edmonton, and Kavis Reed was the head coach. They had a quarterback there by the name of Ricky Ray, Hall of Fame quarterback in the CFL. And Kavis' comment to me was, man, I need you as a leader. I need you as a backup, and I'm going to help you start this coaching journey. And I was like, okay. I didn't know I was going to coach yet. But I was working. I was doing these high school camps, doing these Nike camps. And my wife always told me, she said, you're in a happy place. You're a different person when you get to coach. When you're talking football, you're around kids, you light up. And I took that, went to Edmonton, and just started really paying attention to coaches and how they handle players, how they handle the meeting rooms. And I really started buying into, okay, let me take note of this as a player. That way I can really start this coaching journey. And that helped me. Those 4 years in Edmonton really helped me prepare for this journey that I'm on now, of how to deal with coaches. One question I asked Kavis Reed on the practice field, I said, man, how do you deal with us as players? I said, I said, all these egos, alpha males. He said, y'all easy. He said, because once we get y'all lined up and tell y'all what to do, y'all play in the city park. Y'all play in the parking lot. It doesn't matter. He said, but you see these coaches? He said, when you get in the coaching world, those egos, you'll see. And to this day, I see everything that he's talking about. But what it did for me, it helped me to prepare to how to deal with coaches, how to learn, to listen, and to see how people are, how they move. And that was the biggest thing that I learned. It's one, how to deal with players, especially at the professional level. What guys to call on, what guys not to call on, what guys were good in meetings, what guys were better on the practice field. So I just watched that, as coaches might have pushed the wrong button on a player. Okay, let me write that note down. Your star player, he doesn't like speaking in meetings. You might not want to call on him.
Yeah.
You might not want to do that because you know his comfort level. So those little things helped me prepare for where I am now. And then just getting into college football, that was a little different because I did start off at McNeese State. But at the same time, it taught me about relationships. Because as a player, I always wanted that coach that was going to coach me, but more importantly, cared about me and build a relationship with me. Because after that, you can tell me anything that you wanted to because I trust you and I knew you was out for my best interest. So I really took all of that into my coaching profession to where I am today. It's all about relationships. It's about trust, believing and having confidence in each other. And I learned all that from my back into my playing career that I was able to transition into my coaching career.
me interrupt you for a moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to do this podcast with my son, Austin. For the last 10 years, Austin and I have had many intimate conversations on his drive home from work. Some of these father-son conversations have been lighthearted, while others have been very deep and emotional. Over the Christmas holidays, we decided to start a podcast called Awaken Kingdom Culture, where we invite our friends to share their life-changing stories with you, our listeners. This podcast is done under our nonprofit, The Win Awakening, a sports ministry network for coaches, athletes, and those who lead. Our vision is to awaken hearts and minds, one story at a time. Our mission is to encourage coaches and athletes and those who lead to live from a place of victory, regardless of success, records, or the scoreboard. Our goal is to create safe environments where transparency and vulnerability are accepted, and value and worth are recognized in an atmosphere of love. Right in the middle of your mess, I'm reminded daily that the most important person of my day is the one in front of me, and that one matters, and that you are the one. WinAwakening.org is our website. I encourage you to visit our website where you can encounter the good news of who you are in Christ and what you already possess and how to live from it. There you'll find blogs, videos, Andrew's journal, and this podcast, Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. I'm thankful for all of you who have given and are a member of Team Win. Awaken Kingdom Culture is listener supported. And if you'd like to support us, you can go to winawakening.org. We are a nonprofit. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please like, share, and write a review on Spotify or YouTube. Okay, it's time to get back to the podcast. You know, Kerry, you mentioned it, and I'll just rattle it off quickly for our listeners, but you started at McNeese State, then you went to Southeastern Louisiana, so you're in your college career. You have a couple internships with the Saints and the Bucks in the midst of that. Then you finally get your breakthrough, and Pete Carroll hires you in Seattle. You're there, and now you get your big opening to be the QB coach of the Bears, which I think our listeners know have the first pick. We won't make you tell us who that is today, but it's going to be fun to coach that person for you. And so, you know, you have this great opportunity with the Bears. And I know because we've talked and you've followed the ministry a little bit, you know, Austin and I've spent a lot of time, Kerry, talking about what does it look like or what does it mean to be a kingdom coach? And we talk about, you know, a kingdom coach is someone that understands their identity, which is what you talked about, and how that identity affects the way they live and they coach. A kingdom coach thinks transformationally rather than a transactional guy. He's interested in relationship. You know, a kingdom coach is one that sees differently. They see through a performance and they recognize growth. They're always trying to build the person. And then they also, you know, they speak differently. They speak words of life to their players. And when I think of some of those things that we've been talking about as a kingdom coach, I think that you embody that. And so, you know, we want to talk a little bit about some of that. Austin has a question or two to ask you in regards to that.
Yeah. So, you know, why? You know, we asked the question, you know, why do you coach? What would your response be if someone asked that to you?
For me, it's about making an impact. It's about helping to transform, like Coach just said, transform the lives of the young men that I'm able to be in a room with, the young men that I'm able to coach with, to help transform them, not only in the sport, but also transform them for life
Yeah.
after the game of football. Help to lead them. You know, I have a vision as a leader, as a being an experience, where I can visually see something in my mind and help the people that I coach, help it become a reality. You know, someone did that for me. They had a vision that I didn't see, but they saw it within me, and it helped me to bring it up, bring it to life, to make it a reality. So that's why I do what I do, because at the end of the day, I want to use football has helped me as an athlete, but most importantly, it helped me as a man to help
Yeah.
me to build character in life, and that's why I coach the game, because I want to be able to help to build a better father, to build a better husband, to build a better athlete. Yeah, because for me, it's about coaching the man first, because that man will destroy the athlete before the athlete to destroy that man.
Mm.
So that's why I do what I do.
Well, describe, obviously you kind of touched on it there, but describe even more, if you were like in an interview and say, what's your coaching philosophy or, your leadership style? How would you communicate that to people?
My leadership style is transformational,
Mm.
with the ability to impact the lives that I am able to coach, to impact the lives that I'm able to connect with every day. And those lives for me are just not, uh, those lives for me are just not players. It's about everybody in the building, and it's through my core values. My core values of faith is about fitness. It's about my family, having fun, integrity, respect, loyalty. Those are my core values. And people say, "Oh, you put fitness before your family." Yes, because I have to be in shape. I have to be healthy to be able to take care of my family.
Mm.
You know, and that's why it's number two before my family. Because if I'm not healthy and I'm not around, I can't take care of my family.
That makes
So for
sense.
me, I gave you my leadership vision. That's who I am as a person, as far as my personal philosophy. Then as a coach, when I look at players, I think about what people was able to do for me. I think about being competitive. I tied into this here, and this hit me one day. I was actually riding one day, just trying to put me up. What do I believe in as a coach? And it's about being able to maximize one's ability, whether it's physically, whether it's athletically, to maximize their ability by achieving excellence and greatness while
Mm.
in relentless pursuit of perfection.
Mm.
People look at it like, "What you mean by that?" Well, one, you got to be focused, and we'll never be perfect. We'll
Right.
never be perfect. But if we chase in perfection, we can become excellent and great. And if we become excellent and great, we maximize every gift and talent that God has given us. So I
Wow.
use that, and people say, tie that together for me. It's about focus. It's about focus. It's about the fundamentals. It's about being in order, having order, prioritizing. It's about your communication with people. It's about being unique. It's about being set apart. I don't have to be like anybody else. I can be the best version of Kerry Joseph. And then it's about sticking to the process. It's about believing in the process and sticking to the process of life and the journey that you're on.
Wow.
Well said, Kerry. Well said. A couple of weeks ago, we had Tony Dungy on one of these podcasts as well. And, we were talking about Chuck Noll, the Steelers. And he said that when he first had his first opportunity as a coach with the Steelers, Chuck Noll said, "Tony, the only thing I want you to do is to make your players better." That was always said a coach is supposed to do, is make your players better. And I know in my coaching career as a head coach, I used to always challenge recruits. I'd say, when you sit down with one of our position coaches, assistant coaches, you should ask them, how will you make me better? And I said, if a coach can't answer that question, you shouldn't go there, because that's the role of a coach. And you couldn't have verbalized it any better, Kerry. So I appreciate that. I want to jump to your marriage a little bit and family, and give you a chance. You already mentioned your wife, and what makes your wife special, Kerry, and how does she make you a better coach?
And she makes me special. She's my best friend. I'm not ashamed of saying this. Like, we never dated. We were the best of friends, and never dated one time. And I decided, I'm gonna propose to my best friend. People see us now and they're like, "Man, y'all act like y'all the best of friends." I say, "We are." I say, because that's how we started off. Uh, she's just a God-fearing person. Uh, very spiritual. Always praying for my health and my success, and just having her in my corner, because the coaching life is demanding.
Mm.
We make a lot of sacrifices, the wise make the biggest sacrifice because of the time that we away from home, and we don't have any kids. It wasn't in God's plan for us to have kids, and she's always been there with the move, with the transition. Like right now, I'm in Chicago, she's still in Seattle until the end of May. So just making that sacrifice for each other and what she's made for me and our family, it's just been awesome having a great person in my corner, and a person that believes and just believes in everything that I believe in, and just the confidence that she has in me to be at my very best.
Awesome.
Well, I can tell you, I did the same thing you did, Kerry. I married my best friend, and we've been together 37 years. Obviously, Austin is a product of that relationship. So I think you did the right thing. When you can marry your best friend, that's going to last.
It is.
That's great.
We're going on 13 years, May 28th, and it's just another great year, and just looking forward to just to continue that journey that God has blessed us on.
Awesome.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap up with a few legacy questions here for you. And I happened to hear you on a different podcast, and I was really curious if you'd be willing to share some of this with our listeners. I think you're a believer in journaling. Am I correct on that?
I am. I really believe in that. I didn't do it at a young age, but as I got older and started listening to motivational speakers, leadership podcasts, and you hear people talking about writing things down in your journal, whether it be in the morning, whether it be in the night, because it helps to put your thoughts on paper. And I started doing that. I started doing I don't have a vision board. I just write everything that I have as what I want to get accomplished. So my vision board is in the book. I journal that so I can look at it daily of what I want to get accomplished, what goals I want to get accomplished. When I got this job and blessed with this job in Chicago, 3 of them came off that book. And for over a year, I wrote them down. And I was like, wow, when you write it down, you pray on it. The Bible tells you to write it down plainly on the tablet. It tells you that to write your vision, write your goals down. And that's what I did. But also, I think it's good for your thoughts, because sometimes you don't have someone to speak to at night before you go to bed. You might have those thoughts that you want to get done tomorrow. Write them down, because now subconsciously, as you sleep, your mind is pretty much working those thoughts. When you do wake up in the morning, you're not running around racing. It just kind of all comes into order as your day gets going.
Awesome. So, in 5 words, describe your spiritual journey, or what you have been the most significant, or maybe the most significant moments in your spiritual journey.
Just for me, it's about perseverance. It's about faith, the testing of your faith, because you do get tested at times. When I think about my spiritual journey, I think about just my prayer life, just my prayer, praising God, in the good time and in the bad time. I have a thing right now that when I wake up in the morning, I thank God for allowing me to get up. I thank for allowing me to sit up, to stand up, but most importantly, thank you for allowing me to look up and give Him praise. So I just really make sure I connect with that on a daily basis. And I know, in this coaching profession, man, sometimes 11 o'clock at night, you're tired, and as soon as you sit the couch, you're out. And then you wake up in the morning and say, darn, I didn't pray last night. But that just kind of reminds me, like, God knows there's no perfect person, but He just wants us to surrender to Him. So I just make sure in the morning time, hey, start my day off with prayer, just to uphold my faith, to live out my faith where others can see it, because sometimes I truly believe that especially in the profession that we in, the young men that we coach, they're looking for some guidance. They're looking for someone to connect. And sometimes it's not about what you say, it's about what you do that they're looking at you. So for me, it's about my walk. It's about my walk and my humility to do the things that God has called me to do.
Awesome.
Kerry, when someone encounters Kerry Joseph, how do they experience Papa, and how would you want to be remembered?
I want them to say he's a God-fearing man, that loves everyone, that can connect and get along with everyone. And at the end of my day, it's not about my legacy. It's not about the championships. It's not about the Hall of Fames that I've been honored to be in or about to go into. It's about the impact on the lives that I was able to leave. That's the legacy I wanted. The friendships, the men of God that I was helped, the men that I was, or women that I was able to help lead to Christ. Those are the things that I want to be remembered for at the end of it all.
Wow. Well, the last thing we do, Kerry, is we give our guest an opportunity for any final words, something maybe you want to share that we didn't ask, or there's something that, some people have a ministry to talk about, whatever would be your final words. Then Austin will wrap up with his final, and then I'll close us out.
I talk about leadership. I think we all are leaders in our own certain way, special way. And I always talk about leadership as credibility. I said, when you develop yourself into a leader, you develop credibility. People trust you, people believe in you. But I also tell my guys this here, as a leader, you need to carry a certain DNA with you. And we all have DNA. I shared a story about, you watch TV and people commit these crimes and it comes back on them because of their DNA. Well, we have DNA, but that is your daily nutritional attitude. So I tell guys that if you walk in the building and your attitude is, I don't feel like practicing today, and you take that DNA and spread it onto your teammates, well, that teammate that wanted to practice might be, I don't want to practice today, because you stained him with your DNA. So I tell people all the time, when God gives us the opportunity to rise up another day, make sure that your DNA is a positive attitude, because you never know whose life you might cross and that you can have an impact and encouragement and inspiration to.
Wow.
Amen.
That's good.
Austin?
Coach, I'm thankful for the time that you have given up to be with us today. And I know for me, there's so many little pieces of wisdom that I took from today, just sitting here and hearing your story. Obviously, or for me, looking back and hearing, the way you talk about your dad and just the stories of how he poured in little pieces of truth into you, and then, how it's playing out today, just really, spoke to me and encouraged me. And just your philosophy and the way you're going about the coaching business, it's really admirable. So
it's not for me. It's for the next person. It's to pay it back. It's to give more than I can take. That's the sacrifice. It's about giving more than I can take. It's not about what I can take. It's about giving. And I'm just on that journey now. It's crazy too. I think this might be the 4th podcast this year. I don't think I've done this many podcasts all my life, but it's easy for me to say, man, I don't feel like doing another podcast. But then when you really think about it, it's a blessing, because of the platform that God has gave you with the world that we in with social media to influence, to impact, to encourage so many different people. It's awesome. So I appreciate you guys, of being a part of this, being a part of my life, and allowing me to be a part of yours on this journey.
Thanks.
Well, I know this, Kerry, I think back to 98, and it's just been a pleasure to watch you grow as a young man and becoming who you are today. As I said earlier, I know your folks would be very, very proud of you, and you are definitely a class act, someone that has touched my life in many ways as well, both as a coach and now in what I'm doing, watching you. And I know this, that Thursday night when the Bears make that pick, and whoever that is, we're all assuming it's a quarterback, but if it is, what's interesting is that young man, whoever it is, has no idea the gift that he's getting ready to be given by Papa, and that is Kerry Joseph. Because not only will you help him be a better quarterback, but you're going to be able to help him become a better man and husband and father and all those things that you said. So it's going to be exciting to watch that journey that you'll begin here Thursday night, and know that we're always here to support you as well. So with that said, Austin and I want to thank you for allowing us to share your story with our listeners at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.